Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. My name is Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you on a gorgeous Wednesday, a glorious day to be alive. We are going to spend the next hour and change with you talking topics that matter to Central Virginia, Albemarle County, the city of Charlottesville, and the Commonwealth. We are in the midst of two crunches that undoubtedly are impacting our local economy. We have a labor crunch, which we've been documenting for some time on the I Love CVille Network. The fear is the federal government is incentivizing many people through unemployment to stay home as opposed to returning to work. As a result, many of the businesses in our community have this difficulty on their hand. How are we going to staff our business to keep the lights on? The next crunch we have on our hands is a gasoline crunch tied to a pipeline and hacking of this pipeline by a Russian syndicate. Now we have a fuel gasoline crunch at the same time we have a labor crunch. I want to do a deep dive on how these two crunches could impact the Central Virginia economy today on the I Love CVille Show. I also want to talk bicycle, pedestrian, walker and runner safety across Albemarle County. We will welcome Angela Lynn to the show for her second rodeo. Yesterday, the Planning Commission was talking bicycle safety, pedestrian safety, and how bicycle riding in the county could be a hub for economic development. As you know, I'm running for Board of Supervisors in Albemarle County. One of the tenets of the platform is improved bicycle safety, and if we can improve and encourage more bicycle use, pedestrian walker safety, perhaps we can utilize that engagement to drive economic activity in Albemarle and new sources of incremental tax revenue. I want to talk Water Country USA and Busch Gardens. They've gone on record. They said we're 1,000 people short as we head into the summertime with these two 757 Williamsburg, Virginia parks opening. I grew up in Williamsburg. My mother, my father, business owners. My brother and I were absolute terrors as boys in middle school and high school in particular. I remember my mom and dad buying us the Eurosplash Pass. And this Eurosplash Pass allowed my brother and I access to Water Country and Busch Gardens all summer long. Mom would drop my brother and I, oftentimes accompanied with some buddies, at either Busch Gardens and Water Country at the beginning of the workday and pick us up at the end of the workday. And she would pray and do the Hail Mary, the prayer, as we were getting out of the car and say, "Dear God, please don't let my boys hurt anybody at these theme parks." So we'll talk Busch Gardens and Water Country being 1,000 people short. We'll talk the labor and gasoline crunch today and how it could impact Central Virginia. And I want to put the spotlight strongly on bicycle, pedestrian, and runner safety across Albemarle. Before we go anywhere, I have some positive activity for you in regards to vaccinations. Folks, U.S. vaccinations are steadily improving every single day. We're averaging 2.2 million shots per day across the United States. That is the best we have done. So while we are in a tough time right now as we get out of this pandemic, and I know we're all saying this, good God, we've just spent 14 or 15 months getting out of this pandemic, and now we have this uncertainty tied to a Russian dark web syndicate hacking a pipeline, the largest one in America, and now we have lines all over Albemarle and Charlottesville and Central Virginia that are 10, 15. Heck, yesterday I got a picture of a line at Costco that was 72 cars long. The listener of the show counted the cars, listening to our show on Bluetooth, and sent us a photo via Facebook Messenger of the line at the Costco, which was going into the Mission Barbecue parking lot yesterday. So why don't we start? We got some positivity out for you. 2.2 million shots per day are getting in Americans' arms. We're at the best clip yet since vaccinations have started rolling out of getting vaccines into people's arms. That's positive. We should give ourselves props. America, we've had a tough 15 months. Let's celebrate and the small victories, please. Now, we need to talk real talk now, okay? And I'm going to read the tea leaves, and I'm going to pass the reading of the tea leaves on to you. Over the last, I would say since the start of 2021, we're talking February and beyond. February and beyond, there's been hope for getting over this pandemic. We've been reopening. The governor has loosened restrictions. We see people going back to restaurants, going to larger weddings, thinking about music venues, and enjoying live music again. There's hope. One thing we've been highlighting since hope has sprung as we get on the other side of this pandemic is a labor shortage. This labor shortage in particular is impacting hospitality, live music, food and beverage. So as the restaurants go on market and return to a new sense of normalcy, and as the music venues and wedding venues and breweries and wineries open again, America has been quarantining and saving money. So there's this pent-up demand that's been kind of like storing up and ready to burst over the last 15 months. This pent-up demand is now flooding businesses across America because we want to spend the money we saved and we miss human connection. The problem with this pent-up demand is the small and medium-sized businesses don't have the labor in place to meet the pent-up demand. As a result, for brunch, maybe you're waiting 15 or 20 minutes longer than you used to. For takeout, maybe it's taking longer than the normal. When you go to a sit-down dinner, it might be exponentially longer than you're accustomed to. Okay? That's all byproducts and collateral damage of a labor crunch, specifically short-staffed businesses. If the labor crunch continues, you will see businesses be forced to increase what they're paying employees. So if business owners have to increase what they're paying their employees because employees have the leverage right now, there are businesses all over America, all over Central Virginia, all over Albemarle County, all over the city of Charlottesville that are begging people to work for them. And when you have business owners begging people to work for them, the talent out there has the leverage. Okay, it's the employee. It's an employee market right now. They have the leverage and command the top dollar. If employers have to pay their employees more money to get the talent to work for them, that additional cost will be passed on to me and you, the customer. Okay, that's one example of inflation. Increase in menu prices, increase in wedding venue booking prices, increase in beer prices, increase in wine, the cost of a glass of wine. Now I want you to consider a labor crunch and the fact that employers are having to pay employees more money. Okay? Consider a labor crunch at the same time that a fuel and gasoline crunch is happening. When you have a gasoline crunch, you have to understand that that impacts I won't say every, but it impacts many, many, many supply chains in our world, in our country, in our Central Virginia, in our city of Charlottesville, in our county of Albemarle. Let's just think about the supply chain of a restaurant. How does the beer and wine get to a restaurant? Virginia Eagle Distributing is a good example. Virginia Eagle Distributing's main method of distribution is to take trucks and to drive them to restaurants. How does a restaurant get its towels, its uniforms, its dish rags clean? Probably like a Cintas or a third-party service. The third-party service gets there by driving there. How does the food get to the restaurant? The farmer puts it in his or her truck, it drives it to the restaurant. If they're not using a large purveyor like Cisco, who also drives it to the restaurant. So if all the third-party options on the supply chain have increased fuel cost or cannot find fuel altogether, I can assure you that will pinch the supply chain of just about every industry in this area. The increased fuel costs, it's already over $3 a gallon and it's going to go higher. Those costs will also trickle down the supply chain and be passed on to the partners on that chain. You have two legitimate factors driving inflation locally, regionally, nationally: labor shortage and fuel shortage. And they're all happening at a time when America is sprinting to businesses because we've, for 15 months, been quarantined and have had pent-up demand ready to burst. So customers are eager to go out and spend money, but we don't have the labor to meet that demand. And we don't have the fuel to service that demand. And that, my friends, is a double crunch that's going to drive up the cost of goods, menu prices, beer prices, wine prices, and real estate across Central Virginia. The next question you have to ask yourself: will fuel continue to go north in price, so much so that it drives even more demand into electric vehicles, even more demand into bicycle transportation, walking, pedestrian, public transportation, and even potentially could change human behavior with first-time home buyers no longer purchasing in Waynesboro or the Shenandoah Valley for lower cost of living in a lower house, a lower entry point. Remember, Albemarle in the city of Charlottesville and Central Virginia have gotten so expensive that the outer counties and the 40-minute jaunt over and back, over the mountain to the epicenter of employment, Charlottesville, is becoming all the rage. If gas goes up, I wonder if the drive away for the epicenter of employment for a lower house, a lower price-pointed house, I wonder if that mindset shifts. And why don't we take it a step further? Okay? And this is tough. I'm going to say something that's really tough for me to say as someone who's a commercial real estate investor and has 24 tenants in commercial real estate in the city of Charlottesville. If fuel prices go up, and if we see how tied we are to gas, and how a Russian dark web syndicate can hack the largest pipeline in America, a ransomware attack on this pipeline, if that creates enough fear in America, that's going to further put tailwinds or momentum behind working from ISPs in computers at desks in our homes, as opposed to getting in a car to drive somewhere, tied to gasoline to get to work. COVID-19 and this pandemic showed the world how Wall Street could trade stocks and equities from living rooms. You add increased gas prices right on the heels of a worldwide pandemic, and that's further going to encourage the digital nomadic working mindset. That's a lot to digest. I'm curious of your thoughts. The gas crunch is a real deal. Think about how associated and tied we are as a planet, as a country, as a commonwealth, as a county, as a city, as a neighborhood, to gasoline. A couple more items before we welcome the fabulous and noteworthy Angela Lynn to the show. She's in studio and she's going to join us in 4 minutes. We are live on every social media platform possible. Water Country and Busch Gardens USA has got a story in every newspaper, just about every newspaper in the Commonwealth, that those two parks are 1,000 workers short of being fully staffed. You heard me correctly. 1,000 workers. Busch Gardens and Water Country are short from a staffing standpoint and from a full capacity standpoint with their staff. Okay? The speculation is mom and pop businesses. The speculation is Busch Gardens and Water Country and the like are going to go after the teenage demographic. And the thoughts are, if folks don't want to get back to working behind a line, in a kitchen, in a catering environment, at Water Country, at Busch Gardens, because maybe they're getting more to sit on their couch unemployment-wise, or maybe they found new skills in the last 15 months, and they've transitioned to a different industry altogether. All those are facts, all those are true, all those are what's happening. The speculation is mom and pops and larger businesses like Water Country and Busch Gardens are now going to go after the mid-teen and early teen demographic to fill its employment roster. I am curious to see how a pandemic, a 15-month pandemic that has taught many in F&B and hospitality different skills and transitioned them to other places of work, or the folks in those fields of work are collecting unemployment from the federal government and choosing to do that instead of working on the front lines themselves. I'm curious to see how this pandemic is going to change social behavior, potentially attracting more teens into the workforce than ever before, because the adults in their 20s, late 20s, and early 30s and beyond are no longer working the positions they once held. That literally could be a social behavior, human behavior change from this pandemic. A couple more items from the notebook, and then Angela Lynn is going to join us in T-minus 90 seconds today on the I Love CVille Show. Got questions already coming in for you, Angela. We had a planning commission meeting last night. Neil Williamson from the Free Enterprise Forum was live tweeting that planning commission meeting. We will highlight a couple of the tweets from that, including Albemarle Planning Commissioner Tim Keller suggesting that a bike hub in Crozet could be an economic development concept, something that you certainly agree with, and Rick Randolph referencing Colorado's ski community and its commitment to build out their bike and pedestrian connections as an off-season economic development opportunity. We'll throw both those from the planning commissioner to Angela Lynn, who's a huge evangelist for bicycle, runner, and pedestrian safety across Albemarle. The last item I want to get out of today's notebook is a highlight of Friday on the network. Neil Williamson from the Free Enterprise Forum and Sean Tubbs, two talented Sean Tubbs is a journalist. Neil Williamson would say he is not a journalist, but he is a fantastic content creator. Regardless, Neil and Sean will be on Real Talk on Friday at 10:15 a.m. for what should be a lively roundtable with Keith Smith and I. Judah, why don't we go? Judah Wickhauer is our director. Let's go to the studio camera, please. Let's welcome Angela Lynn to the show. Thank you for joining us on the program. B, so much I want to cover with you over the next 20 minutes. C, you're popular. You have questions coming in for you already. And then D, why don't we start with your introduction for everybody. Who's Angela Lynn? And then we'll talk shop.
Okay, well, I'm Angela Lynn. I've lived in Albemarle County for almost going on 20 years. Before then, I was from Williamsburg as well.
Cool.
So I also bought my kids those
Eurosplash?
passes. Yeah.
Get out of your hair.
They definitely terrorizes everybody. But so there's a connection too with what's going on statewide and these bike trails. That particular community is still friends. I'm still very good friends with a lot of people there, and I get a chance to talk to them. And I'm also friends with people that you just mentioned, Sean and Neil. And one of the things that I'd like to point out is nothing we're talking about is a novel, new idea. Uh-huh. These are ideas that have been spoken about since the late 1990s. We have had here in Charlottesville, Sean and Brian Wheeler were talking about the transportation mode of the bikes and the walking friendly and the bike and the trails easy to access in Charlottesville. And Albemarle County, unfortunately, I feel, didn't get the benefit of all of the things that were going on in that conversation, meaning we needed to also incorporate the Charlottesville-Albemarle connection with the biking and the trails and the walking to be different modes of transportation. So today, in the Virginia pilot, they were talking about the American Heritage Trail, which is going to connect Virginia Beach through Hampton Roads and couple up with the Capital to Capital Trail that starts in Williamsburg and heads all the way to Richmond. This is amazing. It's fantastic. But what they saw with the pandemic and so many people getting on bikes and using the trails and the health and the safety issues being addressed is that it was popular. And so VDOT got involved with this new American Heritage Trail and decided that the modes of transportation aren't only the roads for vehicles, for cars or trucks. And so now we are looking at transportation as all-encompassing bikes and other modes that are not taking us out of that are going to take us out of our vehicles, which is extremely important. Passing those vehicles today all lined up, I'm sure there's a lot of people that wish they could get around differently.
100%. This gas crunch is only going to put, I think, more momentum behind your efforts, especially if gas prices continue to increase. It's certainly going to put more momentum behind electric vehicles, who shockingly have a very small market share of the driving American population. We'll put that to a side. We'll talk bicycle riding. We'll get to the questions that are coming in here. So how far behind do you think the city in Albemarle County are to peer municipalities in the Commonwealth? And you reference Williamsburg, Richmond, and two in the 757.
Well, first off, I'm not the only one who thinks that the Fertile Crescent gets a lot more of the gravy when it comes to projects than we do here in Central Virginia or the western part of the state. That is something that has been a talking point on many issues, not just the one that we're talking about today. And it is, to me, eye-opening to see that you can build something like a bikeway, a private, off the highway, paved safety bikeway from Virginia Beach to Richmond, and not have all the same rhetoric thrown at them that we have thrown at us, that, oh, we can't do that because we've got utilities and we've got easements and we've got a lot of other issues. Well, they have that too, and they have a bigger population. So I feel if they can do it, we certainly can do it. And we should be part of this overall Virginia
movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's throwing that rhetoric out around here?
Well, a lot of it is people who don't really see this being something that they want to invest in. And what they don't see is that it has proven to be economically feasible and also beneficial to not just venues that people come to or stop at along the way of these trails, but they're now destination points for tourism. And Virginia Beach has always been sort of the queen when it comes to the tourism dollars. And so what I'm saying is we need to be part of this overall trail too. Why can't that same trail be Charlottesville, Scottsville, all the way through to Richmond as well?
Yeah.
We've got some amazing spots for people to visit. One of the selling points of Virginia is our history, but we also have communities that connect on these bikeways. You connect communities of color. You connect communities of the past and the present, but you also connect people. And I think this is something that they see as beneficial along with our health. that we need to be able to do this.
Do you envision, what is your vision of the future of transportation? What does the future of transportation look 20 years down the road from now for you?
As a mother of young millennials that wanted to move to a place that didn't need a car.
How old are your kids?
Well, my youngest is 30, my oldest is 40.
Okay.
But they didn't want to move to a place that they couldn't get on a bus or get to work without a car. They didn't want to own cars because they didn't want the parking issue,
the headache, the overhead.
Headache.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
So they were drawn to the metropolitan areas and jobs, of course. But I see them still embracing using something else besides a car to get places because of health reasons and just fitness and overall feeling better that they got up in the morning and got on a bike and got to their jobs. And I don't see that stopping, but I also see them, they like to be able to take a metro train into wherever they want to go and get off and not park a car in an airport if they're going to go off and vacation or visit family or something of that nature. So what we wish is that we have an idea of how to get around that doesn't have only automobiles as the main or only transportation mode. My husband happens to own a Tesla. We've owned electric cars when he wanted one when he first came out. We owned a hybrid when it was first like a little Civic way back in the day. And being an airline pilot, I think he likes technology and he likes the new and improved. So I would like to claim that it's because we are also environmentally aware, but it also is, it's kind of nice not to have to be at those gas stations anymore and you drive right by, you look at that and you go, gee, I feel sorry for them, all lined up right now. We plug in and we're good.
We all know that your family with the EVs, that's the way to go, that's the future, and that's undoubtedly the right move here. Here's the question, and this question came up on the feed. So this question is from Crozet. Okay. Chris wants to know how public transportation and improved bicycle safety and improved bicycle trail system work hand in hand.
Well, and that's a great question. And I watch a lot of bicycles being put on buses.
The buses. Because the thinking
trains.
is, I'll expand on Chris's question and then get out of your way.
Sure.
The thinking is you could use the trail system around Central Virginia, Albemarle County, City of Charlottesville, to get on a bicycle in your house, bike to the trail system, and the trail system will get you to a certain point.
Right.
And then once you get off said trail system, then maybe the final part of the way, the public transportation could get you to where you need to go.
Right.
Is that kind of what he's alluding to? I would think it is.
I think they should couple up.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely areas that I've been to, mostly metropolitan areas, that have bicycles and ferries and boats. I mean, buses and trains.
Trolleys.
That have people bringing in their bicycles and setting them in a certain area and then standing there and getting off and getting to where they need to get to. What we have here in Albemarle County is you got to take your car. I live right outside of Crozet.
Right.
And that road is, because there's so many new people, very backed up and busy. And if you had to be somewhere early in the morning, I guess you got to go twice as early as you used to, but there's no other way to get into town. I mean, you could bike that entire way, I guess, if that's what you want to do. But I still believe we're not connected. We're just when I speak about bike trails, I'm looking at it recreationally. But of course, there are people who want to use it on a daily basis. The best solutions for them as far as getting to work would be something that they're not stuck in traffic or stuck behind a wreck or any of those scenarios.
Chris just added here, I'm asking this question because if someone was living in Crozet area and working in Charlottesville, they would have to take public transportation to a certain point. currently to get to the city of Charlottesville.
Right.
I mean, it's basically what you're saying, right? I mean,
Right.
someone's not going to ride their bicycle right now, currently,
I
from
don't think
Crozet
so.
to the city.
It's pretty far.
And there's no safety.
Right. And unless you had some type of vehicle that with the carpool system, that you had other people who would like to, once they're in town, get off that particular large vehicle, a 12-passenger vehicle or something, and then have a bike racks on it and get off and do your thing, and then get back together and go home. I mean, in D.C., and and a lot of people know, there are people with ride sharing just to be in the HOV lanes. I think we got to get creative because we've got to be more savvy about how we use our transportation knowledge on how do we couple these things up. How do we let people have a choice? What choice do they really have? And
right now, people have no choice.
Right, and then you had people. You're saying you have and I'm fully with you on people with employment issues. When we can't get to work, let's say problems with a driver's license for whatever reason.
Sure, and that can happen to anybody.
Yeah,
yeah,
it could,
yeah.
And it does. And so, how do they get to work? Why would you want to not let them get to work? So, when we had a problem with trains,
it's like I never understood. The kid gets in trouble in school, and then they're suspended from school so they can do whatever they want and don't have to go to school. It's like, is that really a punishment for the kid who got in trouble in school? You don't have to go back to school. You have to stay at home for a week and play video games. It's like basically what you're saying. Someone gets in a little trouble with the law. Immediately, we're going to take their license away, and then the person can't drive anywhere to get to work.
Right. A whole other issue, but I'm definitely
right,
on
it's a
that one
different
too.
issue. Right, but
I'm
you're
on
right.
that one too.
Yeah.
But I do think you gotta let's say they do lose. Maybe there's a health reason that they lost their license. How do they get to work? And do you want to keep them from getting to work? Well, we had people coming from the valley that were going all the way to D.C. to work that didn't have cars, and they were using the trains. Well, there's a lot of people who don't have cars. Expense. Maybe they just moved here. Maybe they're living with relatives. A variety of reasons. We have to have the same variety of people now climbing on board to say our infrastructure has to be varied, and it has to be varied to include the public transportation and the bicycles and the different modes of transportation that are not just automobiles. And it's past time. If the other parts of the state, if the Fertile Crescent of the state gets the revenue, gets the money, with VDOT all excited about, look how good this is. This is really going to be beneficial for many people. Why not here too? Why just there? I mean, we certainly would benefit from it.
I think the best way to make this happen, and I hate to say this, is the money talks.
Yeah.
Is if we can somehow prove that this is going to be a boom with economic development. What were your examples of how a trail system, improved bicycle safety, or like allocating taxpayer dollars to bicycle infrastructure can drive economic development?
Well, even VDOT itself said that it added to tourism and added to our economic development. So it wasn't just the people who were interested on the trails of their venues being visited, or the people who own cycles that just wanted another recreational pastime. It was the whole tourism-driven marketing went to North Carolina. Hey, there's cycle groups from all over who would say there's some great cycling in the state of Virginia and the Commonwealth, but if we just get to Charlottesville, we get to Albemarle County, and then start from there and visit all these amazing sites. And those are the factors that add to our being somebody that should be on that list of who wants this to happen. And then in addition to that, property values do go up when it's a desirable place to live, when there's different things that attract people, and then the venues can have more business. We do have more. We all benefit from that. It isn't, like I said, I never thought it was just about the cyclists or just about the people who
You've
own
done a
the
good job of
businesses.
that.
Yeah.
You've passed the wealth around. You've
Right.
passed the spotlight around.
And to me, this being able to connect people, because we are in a big disconnect right now. The pandemic, yes, but in addition to that, it was political issues, social issues. So something that can connect us again, to get us out and about and show us a little bit of our own, what we didn't really know we had in our own backyards is a plus, and it's healthy, and I think that we need that. We need the emotional and mental, the physical health, but we also, and the economic health. Does all of it can be incorporated in a really good bike trails that is paved, safe, and connects us throughout the state. And if they can do it, like I said, to go all the way from Virginia Beach through Hampton Roads, Williamsburg to Richmond, keep it going. Go on through to Scottsville, down to Charlottesville, and then we'll couple up with more trails. Because this was also a trail. It was trails getting together and uniting and having a real taste of Virginia that I think this is Central Virginia is just so wealthy in history and people to meet.
Beauty.
And beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there is groups already who have proposed things to the governor in the Shenandoah Valley. There's a Shenandoah Valley Cycling Alliance that had asked them for more money to have bike trails come through the Blue Ridge, and so there's a grassroots movement. If you feel like you've talked to your elected representatives and you've done all you can to get a hold of VDOT and tell them what you think they aren't paying attention to, also get a hold of these alliances and cycling groups. And I'm sure you probably had a few.
Yeah,
cycling groups on
and
your show.
hopefully you introduce us to more. We have comments coming in for you.
Okay.
So this is from Jennifer Greer.
Okay.
She says, Jerry, I live in Earlysville. I try to watch your show as much as possible. Have some questions for your guests and some comments. She says, first, please tell your guest that she has great hair.
Thank you.
You got that on the feed?
Us older women like to hear that.
You got great hair. So Jennifer, and then she wants to know, what's the University of Virginia's role in all this?
I can't speak for the University of Virginia because I don't work for the University of Virginia, but I would say that they would certainly benefit from it. I know there's a lot of students and faculty who bike, and they come through our neighborhood, meaning my neighborhood is not a little neighborhood, we're spread out, but the United States cycling team has been out in the Crozet, Albemarle area, cycling up through Wintergreen. So I would say university students would get excited about cycling through this beautiful part of the Commonwealth. But also there's a challenge. There's challenge routes. There's a lot of things that are involved with cycling that the university could promote for their students' health and welfare, but for also recruitment. And so why wouldn't that be a part of their agenda? It seems like it would be something that they would embrace.
Russ.
And then groups. There, we have student groups. I at one point when I lived in Williamsburg, worked in student services at William & Mary, and I know student groups like to do outings like this. They like to hold benefits. They like to do a lot of things that involve cycling and getting out. And so those groups could do more things on these trails safely. Because it's kind of hard to ask people who are novice or maybe don't know the area to get on a bike and go through some busy roads that are dangerous. And that was why we started this conversation. But we didn't start it. What I'd like to point out is, again, this is not a new thought. This has been talked about. When even the Capital to Capital Trail came about, I called up and got a hold of people who were involved in that and asked them, what's the template on this? Because I'd love to see how you got that done. And that was over 8 years ago. But like I said, since the 1990s.
How did that trail come to fruition? How was it paid for?
It was first a private-driven awareness fundraising type of deal, but then the James City County's Board of Commissioners got together and decided that's something that would benefit James City County too.
James City County is right outside Williamsburg, Virginia,
right.
For those that want to know.
Right, and so they, along with the state, you have to have the state because VDOT and the state all have to buy into a project that will end up with private lands and utility issues and all of the things that we've talked about. And then it was a sort of a to look and see how this went, which went well, and it's utilized quite a bit. Even I have driven out there and decided we should. Didn't get all the way to Richmond. I have to admit that. I only got to Charles City, but how many times would I have?
Probably never. Yeah. Probably never.
Right.
But you knew it was safe and yeah. Bikeable and approachable.
Right. And down along the Chickahominy, along the James River is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Okay, so this question.
And there's a heritage. Go ahead.
Sure. Vanessa Parkhill's watching the broadcast. Russ Haley, welcome to the broadcast. Erin King is wanting to know where she can find gas in Central Virginia. So if anyone can help Erin King out, she works for Feast in the Purple Building on West Main. She's awesome. Where open gas is, put it in the feed, and I can relay it to her. This question is a good one. This is from Brian Susia, who watches the show all the time. Jerry, please ask your guest why Lime and the scooters and bike companies that came to town didn't work. If that didn't work, could that be a sign that a bike trail system may not work?
No, I'm gonna. There's a couple of things about the scooters that I was a little vocal.
Scooters and bikes.
Scooters and bikes.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Part of the issues are with the rentals is where they were left. Sometimes there's issues on where people leave them off or dump them in a driveway or on a sidewalk, and became
because you would say it was kind of a disaster.
It was a disaster in the sense that how it was introduced and how it was utilized could have been better. What I found was I started worrying about the scooters with no helmets only because I just gotten, my husband would be dead if he didn't have his helmet on, and so then I started noticing like, oh my gosh, these poor,
they're doing
these
it
guys
constantly.
On the scooter, they're out in the middle of the road.
And they're going like 20 plus miles an hour.
Yeah, and then it was, well, do you make them get a helmet? Then you won't rent the scooter because nobody's going to run around holding a helmet. It needs to be just revisited, but I don't think the problem was per se scooters or bikes. It was just how they were used and when they were used and how they were received. It's new. It's not necessarily something that was good to have people do something other
than... So you're
than
pro-Lime and pro-scooter and pro-renting the bikes and the scooters that were around here. I'm also pro it. I just thought, like you said, the execution was poor. And there weren't clear guidelines in place of, like you said, of where to park them. And next thing you know, we're helmets. Seeing them like almost like litter. As opposed to a method of transportation, they became an eyesore and a fiscal inconvenience as opposed to an efficient way to get around town.
Right. It's a public awareness issue on what's a polite way to do things, and I think we kind of missed the boat on that a little bit, but also created a danger. And let's say I got introduced into the disability world because of my husband, and I was trying to get him down a sidewalk with a wheelchair, and if a scooter was in the way, that would be kind of a problem.
What do you say? What do you say to the folks? I think in a lot of ways, public transportation, and I'm talking buses, trolleys. I will even lump in like the Lime scooters and the Lime bikes and the Bird scooters and the Bird bikes. All those things, public transportation, what I just lumped together, and this bicycle, pedestrian, walker, runner, trail system, these things almost go hand in hand.
Right.
Okay? And I'm playing devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show with you. Okay? The public transportation in this community, and I'm talking Central Virginia, does not seem like it's gotten traction. People complain about reliability, consistency, approachability. The bus system, the CAT system is regularly losing money. So I guess where I'm going at is there's a very large market share population of this community that is super car and truck centric.
Right. Well, we liked our own vehicles during the pandemic because we felt safe. However, we're back in our cars and the parking's bad again, and the traffic is bad again, and the gasoline's going up.
So you think now is the perfect time? It's a
I think
collision of a lot of stuff.
And it happens to be an election year, so I think it's a perfect time. And I think it's a perfect time for Central Virginia not to be ignored, and Western Virginia, the Shenandoah Valley. I feel very strongly that we are a little bit behind in making noise than this Fertile Crescent of how we relate to growing populations. And we have a desire to be modern, but we also have a desire to not be, to keep things that we like, so you have to balance that.
That is so well said. We want to be this world-class city, but this world-class area, air quotes, is certainly very hesitant to change. And
what's working, you don't want to fix.
Yeah,
right?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
But this you can see is not going to be okay if we don't address it. And I think it's not okay right now in many sense because the traffic is back. We can enjoy that little time that we had with getting somewhere back in the 70s maybe. When the pandemic came, we saw, this is what it used to be like. We could actually, zoom down this road. Can't do that now. Everybody's back. So we still are, we're a little bit behind on how we get back into understanding where we're going with this transportation system. The infrastructure money is there. Will it only go to certain places? Will it only go to very populated places? Will it not hit the areas that are growing, like Central Virginia? Will it not hit the places that don't have a lot of population, but they still have a lot of desire to be included in their ability to have the same kinds of benefits that everybody else has? I unfortunately feel like a lot of politicians feel like they go where the votes are, where there's more people. And we have a lot of people here in Charlottesville and Albemarle who are vocal, people like me, a little bit of a spark plug. But
you are a spark plug. I like that about you.
But again, you have to be, because if you don't speak up,
you have to be. Yeah.
You'll be passed over.
You're doing it the right way.
Yeah, and it will benefit a lot of people.
Yeah.
Do I think the scooters benefited a lot of people? And benefited too few in the grand scheme of
I just
things.
think the scooters and the Lime and Bird scooters and bikes may have been too early, too soon. Like the first to market oftentimes gets slaughtered.
Yeah.
I just don't think our market was ready for them yet. But I think if we give them a chance again and revisit them, that they really could be an ally to get cars and trucks off the road.
Right.
I got like 2 minutes left. I want Judah to get a photo of you. If we can get a photo of Angela on the show, that would be fantastic. I got one question, and then I want to give you a chance for a final word for you to go anywhere you want.
Okay.
Okay. So this is from Neil Williamson's Twitter thread.
Okay.
And he was live tweeting Neil Williamson of the Free Enterprise Forum. He's going to be on Real Talk on this network on Friday at 10:15 a.m. with Sean Tubbs. And this is from his Twitter thread. Albemarle Planning Commissioner Corey Claiborne identified this question. Does the dark skies ordinance, which restricts lighting in Albemarle County, conflict with bicycle and pedestrian safety in a dedicated trail system?
You know, I would have to say that when I'm speaking about trails, I'm talking about going through the county, and if they had something that illuminated the trails, it would be probably not something that would hurt night skies. You know, that would mean there's things that are used right now in public transportation in areas that are urban, that have lights that are not that don't illuminate.
They're not
to a
super
point.
Intrusive.
Yeah, but they just keep the trails safe. Now, my daughter, when she goes and rides, which might be in bad weather, is lit up like a Christmas tree herself on a bike. I mean, she's got lights on her helmet, lights on her back, lights on everything, for the vehicles to see her.
Yeah, and that's what my response to Planning Commissioner Corey Claiborne would be. When a car drives on a road, a car has headlights and rear lights on. When a bicycle drives on the road, the bicycle is going to have headlights on, tail lights on, and a light on its helmet. The rider is going to have. So it's no different than what a car is doing. And to your point, lighting on the trail could just be lights that are on the side of the road.
Right.
That aren't going to be intrusive from afar.
Right. I wouldn't want necessarily a lot of bright lights either. I mean, I just wouldn't, because I do like night skies to be dark, because I like a good night's sleep. And I'm not necessarily near anything right now that's coming through my windows other than a very bright moon.
Right. And we're solutions-oriented people, and we see some potential friction being down the road, and we're trying to get ahead of it because we both believe in the value of a trail system for safety for walkers and runners and bicycle. How about this? In about 45 seconds, Angela, we went a little long today, and it's because I appreciate what you have to say. In about 45 seconds, how about a final word for all that are watching?
Well, there is a group called Virginia Trails Alliance, and they have brought proposals to the governor to ask for $25 million to be invested in these types of trails. These are the groups that I'm hoping your listeners start paying attention to, because if we connect and we speak up, we will see things like nice, groomed, safe bike trails throughout the Commonwealth happen. And like I said, nothing is better than connecting people, connecting a community, getting out and doing something healthy like that. When we speak up, we have a lot of people running for office right now. They have our welfare in mind, they say. Is it just people who are their voters in compacted areas, or is it us too? This is the time to ask them, and ask them how you view these transportation monies being an infrastructure that has multiple layers, not just one-sided. And that we're not alone in this quest to have a bike system that everybody can enjoy. Everybody could get on a bike and be able to enjoy something that's healthy and could be a habit after you get a chance to find out how nice it is. So please don't just listen to me or anybody that doesn't have a. I don't own a bike shop. I don't own anything that I'm going to benefit from, but listen to these alliances about what they've already proposed, and if we're just on it together, we will be able to get this done. And I really think that it's time. It's past time.
It's past time. Angela, you're phenomenal. Anybody you suggest for this show, we'll get them on. Just give us the text introduction, and I promise they'll come on. And then maybe in a month or a little bit longer, I'll reach out to you again and get you back on the network for another update.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming on the program.
I appreciate it.
Angela Lynn, guys, she's fantastic. She is an evangelist for bicycle safety in this community. J-Dubs, if you want to show Angela the best way out, that would be great, my friend. Thank you very much. A lot still to cover. Aaron King, Johnny Ornalis says the Exxon on Bel Air has gasoline. Thank you, Angela. And Johnny Ornalis says the Exxon Fry Springs has gas right now. So Johnny Ornalis is helping a friend of the show, Aaron King of Feast. Johnny Ornalis owns El Mariachi and Guadalajara JPA. He says right now Exxon Bel Air and Exxon Fry Springs each have gasoline. Neil Williamson shares a link from gasbuddy.com to find gasoline. So he suggests the link gasbuddy.com. I'm going to close the show with this message. I am fearful that we, as a local economy, are heading into a period of concerning inflation. And it's not just locally. Probably make an argument across the globe, certainly in America, certainly in the Commonwealth, definitely Central Virginia. Every category of business seems to have increasing overhead, increasing cost of goods, supply chains that are pinched. You got home builders that have lumber going through the roof, and home builders unable to find subcontractors to do jobs in a timely fashion. You have restaurants who can't find back of the house or front of the house staff. Breweries, vineyards, and hospitality venues that cannot find staff. You have a gasoline shortage that's going to cause goods to increase in price across every sector. You have a real estate market that does not have enough inventory to meet the demand. So in Central Virginia alone, you don't have enough homes for people to purchase. You have too many buyers. In Central Virginia alone, you do not have enough labor for the mom and pop businesses and the medium-sized businesses to fill their staff. In Central Virginia alone, the fuel crunch is going to pinch supply chains that are already struggling to perform. This area, this home, this neighborhood, this town, this county, this area we call Central Virginia is going to see a spike in prices. Real estate already happened. We've seen it, we've documented it. Restaurant prices, hospitality and food and beverage. It's coming, and it's coming quickly. It's just a matter of time until the B2B businesses and the B2C businesses start upticking their prices as well, because they have to do it to keep up with their increased overhead. That's the show. Today's show was very economics, Ken Elzinga based. I want to thank Angela Lynn for joining us on the program. And I'm going to close with this. You will, on this platform, continue to hear me be a loud and vocal proponent for bicycle, pedestrian, and runner safety in Central Virginia and in Albemarle County. You will, on this show and platform, hear me be a proponent for a branded trail system across Albemarle. A trail system where we come up with a name, a logo, a website, a map online, a branded and well-known trail system that bicycle riders and runners and walkers can use to get from venues like breweries and wineries and cideries and restaurants and B&B and lunch joints and breakfast joints and dinner joints. Nothing would be cooler than to get on a bicycle or put on some walking shoes and to go from a start of a trail that has a name, do the trail or part of it, and know that you are safe from vehicle traffic on said trail because the community is aware that the trail is for pedestrians, runners and walkers and bikers first, and cars second. An idea like that will drive economic development, incremental tax dollars, brand awareness, and tourists to the area. And tourists are the best kind of folks because they come to the area with their pocketbook open, their wallet open, and then they leave the area without taxing our roads, schools, utilities, and other infrastructure. A branded trail system for bicycle riders, walkers, and pedestrians across Albemarle is a no freaking brainer. It's very similar to a branded wine trail or beer trail. All right, that's all she wrote. My name is Jerry Miller. Keep it local. Keep it local. Use common sense. Use common sense. A gas rush when your car has a half a tank of gas is not common sense. Let's not pinch the supply chain more because we're acting out of fear instead of common sense. I'm Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us.